It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a weekly podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris,
And my name is Mike.
and this week we've got our eyes on a new Daredevil trailer.
Oh, how you got to do that to him? He
Man,
doesn't have eyes, Chris.
Well, he has eyes, he just can't see. But I was proud of that one. I was like, we're gonna start off on a strong note today with that one. So thank you for that. Supergirl casts her Kryptonian parents, so we're gonna get to see her alien mom and dad coming into this. We'll talk about that later. An Iron Man 1 actor returns to the MCU in an upcoming series and more.
So, on the epic journey over the weekend of me trying to preserve some of my favorite people that I follow on TikTok, I would look up their profiles, see if they're on Instagram so I can keep following them. The algorithm just started like percolating and it just started showing me all types of new stuff. It perceived me as somebody who was way more interested in TikTok all of a sudden because I was going directly to people's profiles. So I started seeing new things. And it reminded me when you said we've got eyes on Daredevil because there's this popular weightlifter who's blind who makes content. And he's pretty funny. He's very energetic. But he even understands the gimmick of a good thumbnail. So he wears like blindfolds that make him look like Daredevil kind of when he's lifting, even though like he does not need this blindfold. And I find it very humorous. And I don't know, that was my segue of going, there's a lot happening in the world right now. So I'm just glad I can just come on this podcast and talk about relatively insignificant things in the global scale of the world. And different flavored sodas. I got my Stanley here that is it's half Pepsi Zero Wild Cherry and half Dr. Pepper Zero Cream soda, which I thought was going to be more magical once I poured them together into one vessel, but it just kind of tastes like I'm drinking two different sodas identically at the same time. So not as special, but I will be sipping on that through the podcast today.
Wow, I thank you for sharing your mid drink with us, Mike, on today's episode.
Super mid.
Yeah, really appreciate that. I like I said, you wish it had gone one way or the other, really bad or really good, but you ended up with an okay drink at the end of the day.
Well, I all I wanted to do was segue into you buying a vending machine over the week because
I couldn't let you. I couldn't let you get by with a 1/6 scale vending machine, Mike. I needed to get a 3/4 scale vending machine for my basement.
This was like crazy for me because a lot of the times, if the listeners don't know this already, I live vicariously through Chris, because he has a basement. He has no responsibility to a child currently. I don't know what's in your future. Knock on wood if I'm jinxing you or not. But I am often jealous of Chris's ability to buy fun stuff and then store it in a basement because I do not have such basement. And so whenever he tells me like, "Oh, should I get this? Should I get that?" I always just like, "Yes, get it," because it would be so fun for me just to see pictures of it.
If I want a yes, I'm gonna ask Mike. Yes. That's how it's gonna be. Talk me out of this. Oh, you talked me into it. But it was the timing of this was very ironic, I would say, Mike, because last week. I think it was off the air or maybe on the show. We talked about I wish I had my own personal vending machine where the top was a vending machine and the bottom was a fridge, and it could be both for me. And we're like, yeah, it doesn't exist. Couldn't find anything. Literally, not 5 minutes after waking up on Monday, I found one for sale. From these things are from 2015, and I was like, from the brand Hisense, Mike, known for their televisions, dabbled in the fridge experience for a little bit,
It's funny because when you were describing the vending machine fridge combo, I was like, what is he even talking about? I was like, is he trying to get two tiny fridges and put them next to each other? what would that even look like? And it sounded so ridiculous to me. But then when you found that they existed, I was like, okay, I guess I was really off the pulse here. And ultimately, you made the right call.
Yeah. Well, and it's so I picked it up, I brought it home, and it fins 4 drinks. You can either do 18 cans per row, regular cans, or 9 oversized bottles or cans. So you can stack 9 deep, and you have 4 buttons, no quarters. You push the button, it delivers out. The bottom of this is a mini fridge. They call it a pre-cooling fridge. But you can put like snacks, other drinks in there, whatever you want that maybe you don't want falling down a vending machine. And the best part is there's a big 14-inch by 17-inch plastic piece on the front that you can print something on and get it customized. So I'm going to start designing something for this because it's got a little light you can turn on and off. And it's just so fun to have a little vending machine because my wife drinks Dr. Pepper like it's going to be banned like TikTok. I drink Coke Zero like it's going to be banned. And then we usually have like a variety of other things, like either to me, I have my White Claws on hand, Mike, for a nice refreshing alcoholic beverage, or just regular seltzers, mixed variety. So I'm thinking about like having like a the other two, one being random seltzer waters, and the other one being like hard seltzers, like just a random, like whatever you push is what you get kind of thing. And then I'm also going to print like a small can that's on my 3D printer that when you open it up, it says you just got ice and you have to drink a Smirnoff Ice. Because I really want to mess with people who are coming over here. I want them to be wary of pushing the buttons on the vending machine because you'll never know what you're going to get. But it's been fun. I like I said, a listener to the show, Jason, I sent him a photo. He's like, "You just couldn't let Mike have his vending machine, could you?" I said, "No, I couldn't. I had to go bigger for that." This weekend, I also went to a store called the Toy Pit in Indianapolis, and I was at yesterday. And it's essentially just a big open building full of secondhand toys, statues, collectibles, you name it. It was there. It's literally about a mile from Yats, Mike and I's favorite restaurant in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I got to have some of that again. Kick the year off right with that. But I did share, Mike, one of my I call it my white whale of collectible items. They had it there, and it's the first time I've seen it in person. And it is the droid delivery ship from the Phantom Menace, the big droid where they open it up and the droids pop out and they go fight the Gungans. But it's a cooler, so you open it up and you pull out your drinks, and all the drinks have little droid topper cans on it. It was a Mountain Dew promo, maybe Mountain Dew Pepsi promo from episode 1. I think it was only maybe released in Japan, or highly, I guess maybe it was in Japan, and then they brought some over to America. But like to see that in person was wild at this little toy store. But if you're looking for any obscure collectibles from any property, Transformers, He-Man, G.I. Joe, Marvel, DC, a lot of video game stuff was there, or video game properties, Dragon Ball, whatever, they had it. So that's my little plug for the Toy Pit in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's a new store that's opened up recently. You can't miss it. They did all these murals on the outside, Mike, of like pop culture characters. So it's a really cool place to look it up. Yeah, it's run by people who appreciate the product. Unlike unlike a peddler's mall where is this broken? Is it am I gonna get everything in there was priced and clean and not junk, which was really cool. So plug that. But let's kick off into the news, Mike, because first and foremost, I want people to know, go buy your tickets for Captain America Brave New World. They're available. This movie is coming out in less than a month. Our tickets are for Thursday, February 13th. I sadly have to see this in 3D because that was the only time slot that works, and boy, that's a bummer. But tickets are on sale for Captain America Brave New World. We got a new poster in the notes that shows off Tiamut, the Celestial that is essentially dead in the ocean from the Eternals, again confirming that will be a talking point. We know from the trailers over the past year they've got adamantium in here somewhere, probably from this. And what's interesting looking at this poster, Mike, that the one of the eyes is glowing red in Tiamut here. I don't know if maybe people are working there, or if maybe he's still got some sort of power or something. Like maybe that's where the adamantium is. I don't know. But I was like, for a corpse made of stone sticking out of the ocean. That's interesting. He's got a glowing red eye on this poster.
At least, I mean, the single best thing that this movie can do, whether it is received well or not, is stop the comments underneath every like Marvel social media post of just like, oh, are they ever going to talk about the giant hand coming out of the ocean? I get it, but also like I'm tired of seeing it. So at least we can finally put that to rest. Also, surprised so many people always comment that, since apparently like nobody went and saw the Eternals. Everyone hated it. So it's just like, leave it, let it rest, leave it alone.
Either everybody didn't see it or everybody hated it. You got to pick one of the two down the middle. But I think it'll be fun. You know, obviously moving forward, they're gonna address that. It's like what is it, the Stark Tower sale that people have been commenting on? Who owns Stark Tower since the first actually Spider-Man. Was it Far From Home? No, it's one with the Vulture. It was actually Homecoming, because the Vulture was stealing stuff they were taking out of the Avengers Tower. So,
really, was it that early?
Yeah. So, they've been, they're laying something. They're going to pay off. We've seen that in the Thunderbolts. So this year we're going to get two pretty big payoffs in these movies. But tickets are on sale. February 14th. Take your special guy or girl on for Valentine's Day. Get them that. And I don't have it in here, Mike, but I did send you the popcorn buckets for this movie have been revealed. And I want to wait till they're on sale or see them in person. But the one for AMC is a Captain America shield, like a kind of a bowl shape, and the bucket is retractable out of it, kind of thing.
Which is interesting. I like the creativity there. Also, it's obviously not a shield to scale, because I feel like that would be too much plastic to be selling behind a concession counter. But I think this could visually look cool after the fact, like just as like a display. I think it would be easy to hang too, right? Because if you collapse the bucket, you have that kind of like reverse lip on the other side of the shield. You just put one little nail on the wall, just boop, hanging up.
Exactly. I think the collapsal idea is the best way they've done with that. I will say, I think it's Cinemark, Mike. I sent it to you. It has a shield popcorn tub and a shield cup attachment, which is essentially the Falcon backpack is a drink holder that clips onto the shield or the popcorn tub here. It's just a round popcorn tub. And I'm like, that's pretty cool when you can combine them together, really condense your drinks and your popcorn down to one item. That's some creativity with that. Again, we've seen the popcorn helmet container, not a huge fan. And then a Red Hulk popcorn tub where there's just some sort of concrete mural with Avengers logos on it. I don't know what it is. So probably have to watch the movie at the end of the day. But we're starting to see some of the stuff. We'll see if we pick any of these up next month, Mike. I'm not feeling strong vibes about the Captain America popcorn buckets yet, but I do know, the year is young for movies. Moving on, we had like I mentioned, a new trailer for Daredevil Born Again, the upcoming series from Marvel Studios, not Netflix, and it'll be on Disney Plus, coming out March 4th. So this trailer essentially confirms a bunch of things. I think we've seen this in leaked stuff from like San Diego Comic-Con. It's like an updated version of that one from last year, the leaks, but it will continue the stories and characters from Netflix's Daredevil series. So if you are not caught up on those or have not touched those, and when was the last, like 2018 maybe, 2019, you're gonna need a refresher, Mike, and this is your chance to plug your refresher channel.
The man of recaps, love that guy. It does make me wonder, like, they had such an easy out, right? We talked about this so many times, like the multiverse out there in the world. They could have relegated all of Netflix to a multiverse, but now they're making it canon, which which means you kind of have to like hand wave a few things away. The first thing that comes to mind, actually, it might not be an issue, that Cottonmouth from Luke Cage is also Blade. But we can hand wave a few things away if we absolutely have to. It honestly kind of feels like I don't know anything about baseball, but I did see the movie Moneyball once, so I understand the concept of building a team around just who has the best stats. That kind of feels like what's happening here. Like, well, Daredevil is kind of like the best Marvel TV thing that's ever been made, just purely based on like numbers and viewership and just critical appeal. So yeah, it makes sense to just keep this going. It'd be a little too messy to kind of like figure out another way to like narratively reboot it.
Well, I also think it's one of those things. I think they did try to reboot it right with the original team. They're like, it's not working. But I, having talked to people this past week about this trailer, they were like, oh, I'm going to have to watch the old series on Netflix. I'm like, actually, you can't find the old series on Netflix anymore, because Netflix was essentially a distributor, and it'll be on Disney Plus for you. And they're like, oh, that's great. So they I think a lot of the average viewers, not us, who talk about this and look into this every week, will probably be more likely to just be like, oh yeah, I remember Foggy and Karen from the other one. And I don't know how many people watched season 3. I don't know if they'll remember. Was it Bullseye? But they were going to recast the Kingpin's wife, and then they brought the original actress back whenever Marvel Television did the retooling in 2023. So I think there will be hand waving. There won't be, hey, there's a dragon underneath New York and it collapsed on them, like kind of thing. Like, I think we're gonna forego some of the mystical aspects, or at least they'll retool them a little bit. But it does seem pretty good. This trailer gets me hyped, Mike. Again, we get to see the return of Frank Castle, the Punisher, played by John Bernthal. Some pretty bloody action scenes in this one. It seemed kind of brutal for something you would expect on Disney Plus. Now, mind you, Disney Plus is pushing the envelope with some of their other stuff, but I mean, this seems to be in the vein of the Daredevil show that we did watch 10 years ago on Netflix, right? Feels pretty good. Charlie Cox has also said that season 2 will have started filming by the time the show is streaming, so they're going to do 9 episodes here, 9 episodes again. Nine's a good count. And then also in this trailer, it was really, to me, I think the standout scene, and I think a lot of people talked about this, is it's not a confrontation, but it's Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock sitting in that diner, and he's like, it's not entirely unpleasant to see you again to the King, to Daredevil. So I'm excited to see their dynamic kind of come back into play here.
I have a strong feeling that diner scene is probably the last scene in episode 1. Setting up the stakes and the tension for the rest of the season. That's my guess.
A lot again, and I think we've talked about a lot of the footage they use for Marvel promos are like the first 2 episodes usually. For the promos. Some of this looks like it might be a little later on, but they've got to reestablish Daredevil. Where's he been? What's he been doing for the past several years? And kind of do that as well. But I agree. I think we'll see that scene pretty early on in that. But I'm excited, Mike. I'm hyped. This is March 4th. We're less than 2 months away. We're gonna have a pretty front-loaded year for Marvel this year. After only really one movie and 3 shows last year, we've got 1 show and 1 movie, or 2 movies and a show up through May. So excited for this. The Vision series, we haven't really got anything official out of this in a while, but they are casting and casting announcement. I guess from the trades, casting announcements from the trades have been coming in. But actor Faran Tahir, who played Raza in Iron Man, will return in the upcoming series. Now, if I said that name out loud to anybody, they'd be like, "Who was Raza in Iron Man?" But if you look up this guy, you're like, "Oh, it's the guy who essentially kidnapped Tony Stark and told him to build the missiles in the first movie," right?
Yeah, I definitely had to Google it.
Yep, but when you see him, you're like, "Oh, yep, I remember him. He played a big part of that." He was supposedly killed whenever Obadiah Stane came in there, and he used that thing to paralyze him, and his team went in and killed him, get rid of this quote unquote 10 ring thing, and he walked in and we saw gunfire, but we didn't see a body, right? And that's the thing with shows and movies, especially in comic books. If you didn't, sometimes even if you see a body, they're not always dead. But it's a Vision show, so is this a flashback to Tony Stark being captured, the creation of his Iron Man armor? Because the Vision is, obviously, and Ultron are based on Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, right? So are we going to be going back to that era where Tony first became Iron Man, and we see some of the stuff from that point of view? Well, any takes on this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I would think if he is still alive, his motivations maybe would be, okay, well, obviously I hate Tony Stark. I want to get back at him, but he's dead. Maybe I just go after his legacy in any way. And technically Vision's his legacy, but I feel like that's a lot to, right? Would an average person on the street, on planet Earth know Tony Stark created Vision? I don't know. So we'll have to see, I guess.
And it's white Vision at this point, right? Like it's an entirely different Vision. So, I think that would be huge. But I feel it'll be like, what led to Iron Man, which then led to, his thing, a suit of armor around the world, which was the creation, why they were trying to make the Ultron AI, which became, the child of that was Vision as well. So hopefully they do that, but we don't know, but this is, another interesting returning actor from Marvel from 2008 that we haven't seen or heard of, or just assumed was dead off screen. So very interesting. Love to see what they're pulling together for that. Over in the Marvel TV world, we've got some news here for Eyes of Wakanda, the animated show coming out in August, that will follow a group called the Hatut Zaraze, and they are like Wakanda's CIA tracking down stolen vibranium in the world. Sounds like a fun little adventure. Showrunner Todd Harris says, and I quote, Mike, I'll read this real fast. Animation, this was validation for you. Animation is the ultimate equalizer of locations. Egypt costs just as much as New York City. The moon costs just as much as Ohio. Filming around the globe has inherent limitations that we don't have in animation, and this freedom allows us to reimagine an idealized version of an era unaffected by human history. So, as we always say, Mike, animation, they can draw a lot of things for the same cost that they could draw anything else, right?
Yeah, I do always find it funny, though. I feel like if you were to find, and this always seems to happen when you interview somebody that has maybe normally worked in live action and then transitions to animation, either whether it's like adult animation, action, comedy, kids animation, they always bring up the moon, which I find really funny. It's like the one analogy that every creator reaches for when they're talking about animations. Like, we could go to the moon. Isn't that crazy? Which, I don't know. I find it really, really funny. If somebody could do the due diligence and compile all of these quotes of just people wanting to draw the moon, I guess everyone wants to have a scene on the moon.
I would love to see all the scenes that come to fruition on the moon. Like, that's what I want to see. How does everybody draw the moon? It's just mostly white rocky stuff and some other, bouncy physics. But I thought that this quote from the showrunner was a validation for you, right? Like, how we talked about that on the show, how we've always talked about it on the show in animation. It sounds like they're going to be going around the world. The other part, I think they said that, this group, the Hatut Zaraze, they're Wakandans. They also have to deal with knowing what the outside world is like, because Wakandans don't understand the outside world for a while, right? This is back in history. That other cultures and other cities are doing different things, and how are they going to kind of react to that? So I'm excited for this show. Like I said, it's a small 4 episodes, I think, as well. 4 to 6 maybe. Just to see what they do with this Wakanda and the history of their stuff along the way. So that'll be coming out August 6th later this year. Also, the other show coming out right after that is Marvel Zombies, coming out October 3rd. It's a 4-episode series, and I think it was Brad Winterbaum maybe says presented like a mini movie, which is rated TV mature. So they did go for the higher rating compared to some of their other shows, which I don't think we're going to see exactly blood and guts, Mike, but like they could go a little more brutal than a TV 14, right? Rating along the way. And they've confirmed that Marvel Zombies will serve as a sequel to the What If episode and feature original actors, again, returning to voice characters. So essentially, What If season like 1.5, if you will, based on that one episode.
Yeah. I don't know, based on these kind of like last two topics, I have a feeling that these mini short run animated things are going to be short lived at Marvel. Just because one thing that I kind of do know about the animation production cycle and pipeline is it's kind of an upfront investment, right? You create all of these characters, you do all the design, the environmental design, especially if you're doing like a CG type of show, because you can reuse those environments after they're designed once. It's like an upfront cost in hopes that you can run this longer in perpetuity. Even better if you can sell toys. It feels like doing these like one-off shows that last like 4 episodes is really just a vestige of kind of that era where Disney Plus was just like, we just need content, green light everything. So I would think this kind of feels like maybe the last of it. It feels like odd and out of place of just like 4 episodes of some sort of like Wakanda thing or whatever, or let's just do 4 episodes spinoff of this what if show that we just kind of sunset. So I it just kind of feels like it lacks a bit of a strategy. So I'm kind of curious, maybe when the Spider-Man show comes out, what kind of reception that has, and then I think we can maybe glean from that maybe what the long-term strategy is going to be for him.
Well, I mean, these were announced forever ago as well, right? Like these are essentially waiting to release. Marvel Zombies, I think, to your point, is reused assets. It's the same animation style as What If. It's the same characters from What If as is the sequel. They probably had the voice actors, so they probably did all the voice line recordings with What If. Probably 2 years ago, if not longer, right? So they've probably been sitting on this one. And then obviously when Bob Iger came in, they spaced everything out. So they've been waiting for this one to kind of come out. Eyes of Wakanda, it is a Ryan Coogler produced, and the other guy, I think, who might be leaving Marvel producing. So they were probably like, hey, we know we're going to be doing Black Panther 3 eventually. Is there anything you want to do in the meantime? And kind of giving to him to fill in the background a little bit. I don't think that one will have any legs. I don't think they'll reference that in Black Panther 3. Obviously, Marvel Zombies is just like I said, What If 1.5. They were like, hey, we have this one episode, hugely popular. We're gonna lean into that one more than the others. So I agree. I don't think these are strategy things. These were maybe pre-strategy items, and are just now finally hitting the forefront. But again, if they hit the pulse, if Marvel Zombies works, maybe they'll like, oh, we'll do another 4 episode Marvel Zombies down the road. I can't predict what the vibe's going to be when these land, or the popularity. So we'll see how that goes down the road. But they are remnants of the I guess COVID era announcements of Disney Plus shows rather than the proper stuff. But moving on to another non-announced Disney Plus show that says it's been greenlit, but when things are greenlit, we don't know on the front end. They usually only announce them when they're working on them. But it's a Strange Academy series, as rumored to have been greenlit by Marvel in the background. So they're most likely working this into a writing and planning phase before they say something. This would be, if they greenlit it now, Mike, I think an announcement by San Diego Comic-Con or New York Comic-Con, if this is truly the case right now. They give them 6 months to work on it before they say anything proper.
Yeah, possibly. I feel like Strange Academy is maybe the last missing piece before they could launch into a Young Avengers style project, right? Because that's where we last left off with America Chavez. I'm pretty sure, right? She was at that. And then I think there was even hints that maybe Ned possibly could be at the Strange Academy. Is his name Ned? Or I'm thinking like Ned and Genki. Are they the same people? I don't even remember anymore.
No, well if Genki is Miles's friend, Ned is Peter's friend that they've created for this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it is Ned. Okay, that's why I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
So Ned theoretically could be there, and since this is kind of like a structure and children are supposed to thrive within structure, right? Maybe this is how we bring some of the other younger people. But the thing is, the longer they wait for this quote unquote young Avengers, the older that everyone's getting. Like Haley Steinfeld is like not a kid at all.
Well, we talked. They're probably going to call that Champions going forward. Remember, they're probably not going to call it Young Avengers, but move it into the Champions title.
And I guess this kind of maybe would avail them of some issues of putting maybe young kids in dire situations.
Yeah.
If everyone's kind of in their younger 20s, they'll probably really lean into just like their immaturity as characters and not really being able to problem solve and synergize as a group. But I would think this would be the stepping stone to that.
And there's two things. Says number one, it's probably going to follow Wong as the Sorcerer Supreme because Doctor Strange disappeared, training the next generation, following the Multiverse of Madness, whenever they massacred a lot of the, Kamar Taj people, sorcerers, right? They need people to refill those voids as protectors. Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme because Doctor Strange left, and Benedict Wong, who does play Wong, has been a team player in Marvel, right? He's been in how many post-credit scenes or shows, right, along the way. Like he is, he's got the strongest sidekick character energy out of anyone else on here, other than probably Sam Wilson, who is now getting his own movie. But with this, I don't like the name Strange Academy if Doctor Strange isn't in this show, and the rumor is that he's probably not going to be in the show, so maybe they change the title a little bit for that or something, right? So I don't know what they change it to, but Strange Academy was a series they had in the comic books where Doctor Strange was teaching a younger generation how to use spells. But I think it would be an interesting thing to dive back into the magic part of Marvel, that side of it. There's probably some comedy, there's probably some drama. It would be a fun little series that could kind of touch on that a little bit. And I think it would probably need to happen if I was to say before Doctor Strange 3 came out, Mike. I think if I would put it on a timeline, I would want this before, as you said, New Avengers or Young Avengers / Champions, and also Doctor Strange 3, because I really want Doctor Strange 3 to come out.
And I mean, that's a big, actually kind of like timeline barrier that we're dealing with here with Marvel projects. I know nothing's really been officially confirmed, but we all kind of feel like there's a big reset coming. And it seems like a lot of these projects either need to drop before the reset happens, or they're going to come after the worlds like reconfigure and everything will be different anyway. So now I feel like when we're talking about rumored projects, I'm like, oh, well, does this happen after Secret Wars or before Secret Wars? And I feel like all of the slots before Secret Wars are really starting to fill up. And I'm just like, oh, well, if they're trying to like do kind of less but better things, like I don't think we have room for anything before everything collapses into one universe.
I think this would be. I don't think there's that much really on the calendar in terms of series. We have Daredevil season 2 after this year. We have Ironheart in this year. After this year, the only series we know about officially is, I guess, not Deadpool, Daredevil season 2 and Vision. I could see them doing a Strange Academy coming out the same year as Secret Wars. Not Doomsday, Secret Wars proper. So I could see them start filming this now and coming in time for that, and that's why we're seeing this. But like Nova is post Secret Wars. Hawkeye season 2 is probably post Secret Wars, if that's really working as well. Is there any other shows I think we've talked? I'm trying to remember any other shows we've really talked about. Like they've dried up in terms of series that they've talked about recently. I can't think of any. So I think
I was gonna say the Amanda Waller show. Wait, no, that's a different company.
Yeah, no, that's actually in the show notes below. So I think we are in a frame where like in an area where we could get the show before Secret Wars. But it could be, maybe this is one of the, if they do the thing where like, oh, in the middle is a battle world kind of thing, maybe the Strange Academy is a piece of that world where, it's run by the sorcerers, kind of thing. And they could show there. I don't think they will, but there's opportunity along the way. I think this one's a very interesting concept compared to, some of the other, more, just generic shows that we've talked about. Like Hawkeye season 2 is supposed to be like a raid style, right, in one building, and this would be dealing with magic, so it'd probably be a little higher cost, hopefully, and maybe do some adventures, but we'll see. But that does bring us to our next point, Doctor Strange 3, Mike. This is the rumor here is it's not supposed to start filming until 2026, which would probably put it out maybe 2027. Sam Raimi is still a front runner for the follow up since he did Doctor Strange 2 in the Multiverse of Madness, and like I said, it's currently planned but still quote unannounced from Marvel Studios. So, I think we're overdue for a Doctor Strange movie. What do you think?
Yeah, this really seems like it's going to be some sort of glue or stitch when it comes to the next two Avengers movies coming up. I'm not looking at our timeline that is available on our upcoming release calendar on our website if you want to see when all these movies are supposed to be coming out. But I would think this is either got to be stitching the two Avengers movies together, like coming out in the middle, or just before Doomsday. But it seems like it'll be a middle movie, right?
Yeah. Because Doomsday is next May, 2026. So this would be if this is not filming until 2026, it would be probably right before Secret Wars. At least now I'm starting to second guess myself, but I can't think of anything. It goes from Fantastic Four into Doomsday next year because we don't have any. Blade is out. 2026 here. Is May 1st, 2026, Avengers Doomsday. And then we have Spider-Man 4. November 6th, 2026 is an untitled Marvel movie, Mike. That might be it. Maybe it's our November next year. They film it.
There's been a Doctor Strange movie. I don't know about the second one, but I think the first one might have been a November release, if I recall correctly. But Doctor Strange is a very strong narrative character, right? You know, when you think about like really strong characters that you have to kind of nerf in order to make the story more interesting, you know, you usually think like Thor or Hulk first. How do we get them out of the picture or incapacitate them so the other Avengers have to try a little bit harder? But like Doctor Strange, he has been like the catalyst for nearly everything since they put him in the forefront, right? Like he knew exactly what to do with Thanos. He had to kind of like sacrifice himself to let that go through. He is basically the thread for almost everything that's happened in What If as well. So I got to imagine that they are maybe teeing him up to do the same thing. I would think if this is the case, he is maybe the next kind of big death in the MCU, right? Yeah. You know, he probably properly dies maybe in Secret War in some sort of sacrifice capacity, kind of like Iron Man did.
Well, if he doesn't die, I think maybe he goes out of the way of like Loki season 2, because at the end of Doctor Strange season 2, he goes with Clea to worry about the incursions. Well, maybe he has to spend the rest of his life fighting incursions or like, you know, keeping the multiverse from happening again. Kind of very similar to Loki, but like he's sacrificed himself for the greater good. But you know, there's always an opportunity they can bring him back if they wanted to, because I think Doctor Strange and Benedict Cumberbatch have become a very popular character, right? Like synonymous. You see him, you think Doctor Strange, right? So I think there's opportunities to not necessarily kill him off, but keep him like, hey, we have him in our pocket in case we need to bring him back for something. But he is absolutely a tremendous force to be reckoned with in the MCU right now. Like I can't think of anybody else who could really, you know, be on his level as of right now. So maybe him and Doom work that out. Well, we'll have to see when Doomsday comes around. Shang-Chi 2 is the other movie that is planned not to start filming until 2026. And it'll most likely be after Destin Daniel Cretton is done with Spider-Man 4, because he is the director of Spider-Man 4. If he's still attached to this movie, I think he will be. Right? He was originally attached to Kang Dynasty. Then, you know, came the retooling. They gave him Spider-Man 4 now. You know, so I think, you know, if they're going to keep him with that, let him continue it, or at least be a big part of it. That'll be after Spider-Man 4. Right. I'd love to see more Shang-Chi. You know, that's someone we have not seen in a hot minute in Marvel, and he landed with such a really, really good debut kind of along the way, right?
Yeah, the rings are just cool. I just want to, you know, regardless. I mean, I love Simu. He's great. I love him on social media. He gets it. But also, the rings are just a really cool visual, and sometimes cool stuff in movies is the bottom line. You just want to see something cool, and if those rings are fighting something, you know, if those rings are punching somebody on Battleworld, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and he, like, I guess his Simu Liu as Shang-Chi he's like an infectious character. You're like, yeah, he's having fun, he's doing good things, he's competent as a character. He's able to fight, does really great action scenes. Would love to see them kind of work his way through that. But also in terms of Spider-Man 4, Mike, I'm going to leave you with this, and then I'm actually someone just rang my doorbell. That's the problem with doing this live. So I'm going to leave you with this note. I'm going to go see what's going on. But the rumor is for Spider-Man 4, Peter Parker will get the black symbiote suit from the upcoming Avengers movies before wearing it in a solo movie. Do you think he's going to get that in time?
All right. So it's all me now. Chris is gone, folks. I'm gonna wax poetically about Spider-Man for a really long time because that's the best way to kill time on a podcast. No, what do I think about this? What do I think? Just me alone with myself, the black symbiote suit. I mean, my first initial response when I looked at these notes earlier today before we started recording, I was just like, how many times are we gonna hammer this black suit away in pop culture? I mean, it works out well for me because I only own like one collectible comic book, and it's the Secret Wars cover where Spider-Man has the black suit on. So it's like a double-edged sword, right? If they bring this character back to the screen in a proper Secret Wars environment, value of my comic book's probably going up. Probably not by a lot. Like I'm not retiring off of one comic book, but I could get a little bit more cheese in my pocket from it. But also, like, I feel like the symbiote's so overplayed. The Venom movies overplayed it. It was just a silly joke in Spider-Man 3. So if I'm gonna see it, I would love to just see it taken some sort of creative, serious way. I don't know, like what's a new way to approach the symbiote suit that we haven't seen just over and over and over again. Like even if you've been committed to all of the animated Spider-Man TV shows over the decades, where they just make a new animated show every couple of years. Eventually, you're just waiting until they do the episode arc with the symbiote suit because it's so iconic. But that also just means it's everywhere, always been out there. So just like, I guess you have to like if I had to say anything, they have to do it, right?
Yeah.
How many times in our lifetime, Chris? I'm glad to hear you back.
Yeah.
Are we going to get a Secret Wars movie, right?
Yeah.
Because even if they reboot the whole MCU, they're probably not going to do the same storylines over again. We're probably not going to get another Civil War. They're going to try to do different stories, whether it passes or fails. I don't know. Maybe in 30 years, 40 years, when we're old and wrinkly and retired, hopefully retired, maybe they'll come back around to a Secret Wars story again. But this is probably our only chance maybe to introduce the suit as it was done in the comic book. So, okay, I guess, okay, fine.
It was,
That's kind of where I'm at.
Well, and I did have my headphones on the whole time, so I'm glad you brought up cheese in your pocket. That was very, very catchy catchphrase along the way. I think two things to this. Number one, it can't be, if it is the Venom symbiote from the Venom movies that is left behind at the end of Spider-Man 3, it can't be that Venom, right? It just has to have some sort of similarities, but it can't be Tom Hardy's Venom. It has to be like, all right, well, they've created their own MCU version. But two, I guess it's the only way he can power up his suit or give him a level up in Secret Wars without Tony Stark around, right? Like, I don't think this Robert Downey Jr. Doctor Doom will give Spider-Man any suits. So he has to level up somehow to probably fight, and the symbiote's like a quick, easy level up button that everybody knows. And at least, like you mentioned, like your comic book, will have an iconic scene, an iconic pose of some kind in the black suit. And maybe they could take the next trilogy forward going with it, but it like you said, it has to be done differently. You can't make him angry. You can't make him emo. He has to really be done differently with that suit and how he interacts with it kind of along the way. So hopefully they're able to do that. But like the reliance on it across 3 movies would be, kind of heavy, right? Like, you just wouldn't be any fun at the end of the day. Kind of like, remember how X-Men like beat Dark Phoenix to death back then?
Yeah.
So
it does make me wonder, like, how does the symbiote like rear its head in the film? Like, I'm thinking of moments in What If where, Doctor Strange was like evil Strange, and wasn't he like opening portals and like blasting like Captain Carter with like aliens from other universes. Like he was like,
Yeah.
launching squids and monsters at her.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe there's some sort of like equivalent to that where there's just tons of things flying on the screen happening, and like a symbiote just happens to be one of the many things that, you know, grazes Peter's shoulder or something, and maybe it's played almost more of a cameo and less of like a big story element. You know, he gets the black suit on, does a couple cool like punches and kicks, and maybe it flies off of him to be a post-credit scene later or something.
I don't even know if it needs to be like sentient kind of thing, right? Like, or like, you know, have its own voice and speaking. Like, I would like it to just kind of be more of a, I don't know, good thing. Like Ultimate Comics did a thing where the Venom and the symbiote in Ultimate Comics was a cure created for cancer. Like, we're gonna create this thing, it bonds with the host and cures cancer, but it became, you know, obviously evil and stuff later on. So like, you know, there are ways to do Venom other than aliens, but I know they've kind of set themselves up. They put themselves in the corner by partnering with Sony and leaving that behind. And we know that whenever he ported over to Spider-Man, the 616 universe, I guess the movie universe, it wanted to find Peter. So maybe that little bitty symbiote spends months traveling from that little beach tavern to New York, right, across the country to find Peter. And maybe he finally gets there at the end of the movie, after like moving an inch at a time. And that's kind of how we get it.
That could be kind of fun.
Yeah, it'd be more like, okay, it's worked its way there, and we don't. Maybe it's at the end of the movie, because I don't need we already have a sad Peter. He has nobody. Nobody remembers him. We don't need an even sadder, angry Peter.
Can't get sadder.
Yeah, we can't really have that. So I would love to see it be again like a suit upgrade for him, that he doesn't have to rely on technology, but he's relying on this maybe alien for. We'll see. We got some time. You brought up earlier your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man is dropping this month, actually, here in a couple weeks, and it has a very unique release schedule for the series. It's doing a 2-episode debut on January 29th, 3 episodes on February 5th, 3 more on February 12th, and then 2 more on February 19th. They're not dragging the show out, Mike. They want to get it done within a month here, so across 4 weeks you can catch the whole show with a packed Marvel year already, right?
Yeah, I'm curious what the impetus behind that release is.
They don't want to get it with Daredevil. Like, it's really, they don't want to cross Daredevil's release on March with it.
Yeah, I guess. You know, you would think, you know, in the streaming landscape, you want things to span more than a month so you can go past, like, you know, subscription renewals. Yeah. Maybe they're testing something out here. Maybe they're trying to get some data.
I also don't think anyone's getting on Disney Plus alone for your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Right, this is not this is a show that's been through the ringer. It was originally Spider-Man freshman year, and a lot of people thought it was MCU based, but you know it's not. It's alternate universe Peter, with Norman Osborn being his mentor and all this other stuff. So it's very different. Love the art style. Again, it's very comic booky, from the 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s a little bit. But I will say, to me, I think they've come up against what was it, those producer schedules we've always talked about, Mike, where like we have to release this by X, Y, and Z, or else there's some sort of payday stipulation I think we've talked about, and it feels like this is like we got to get this done in Q1, but we don't want it to run against Daredevil, so get it done in a month, and then we'll kick Daredevil off in March, because I think you will see some subscription pickups to watch Daredevil in March, Mike, through that weekly series. So very low stakes. To me, I think it's a low stakes show. I think it'll just be fun. We'll see if anybody else watches this and maybe they get, season 2, the sophomore year of Spider-Man along the way.
Yeah.
Moving into the DC world here for a little bit. Big news. Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow has started filming in the UK officially as of this week. So the second DCU property, film property, is on its way. And they've officially cast David Krumholtz. I put Oppenheimer here, but we all know him as the elf, the main elf from Santa Claus, right? He was in that. And actress Emily Beecham from Into the Badlands as Kara Zor-El's parents. So, and then David Krumholtz went on to say that yes, he is playing Zor-El, the father. So they are the Kryptonian parents. So they may be alive, they may be dead. I don't know the story of her as much in this movie, but they will be appearing in it.
I mean, obviously, we all love Krumholtz from our childhood. This feels like a friend hire to me, and not in a bad way, like a nepo hire. Like for some reason, I feel like Krumholtz like runs in like the gun circle already. So I'm happy. I'm happy for him that he gets to be a Kryptonian.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious because I've brought this up on the show. The most exciting thing about this whole DC universe to me is I just don't know a lot about the DC universe. All I know is what I know from like the Justice League animated show and then the Batman animated series, which was much more narrow, kind of just focused on Batman. At least Justice League kind of opened it up to a lot more storylines. But that's all I know. That's like I don't really read a lot of DC comics. I've read a couple trades here and there of some more iconic storylines, but I'm pretty like in the dark, which is really fun. So when we kind of talk about Supergirl like stories and plot lines in a movie, I'm just like I have literally no idea what to expect. I know almost nothing about the character. So at least it gets me excited.
Yeah, that's always a plus. I mean, and they have the opportunity being Ground Zero to do their own stories, right? Like they're not beholden to any, not at least much lore. I mean, I don't think what was it, Creature Commandos really set a lot of rules in stone going forward for them. Superman might and Millie Alcock will appear Supergirl and Superman first this year. If we do have that in our notes, so she will make her first appearance in the Superman movie. So we will get to meet her briefly, whether it be through a cameo or maybe she's in the Fortress of Solitude, like some people were zooming in on the robot's reflection, so on and so forth. So we'll get to see her. And I think Peacemaker and Season 2 will also not really apply to the space of the DCU, right? The space exploration. We know Jason Momoa will be as Lobo, and he could also have future movies, possibly his own project down the line. So they're really going to go into uncharted territory, even for regular, even for Zack Snyder's DC universe, right, where they were out in space seeing the universe proper, and that's exciting. That is I agree with you. That is exciting. I just wish the first two movies weren't Superman related. That's all. All I'm going to put out there.
Well, we didn't really have a chance to talk about the finale of Creature Commandos at all.
We can add that in here.
Did you? Yeah, did you have a chance to catch it?
Oh yeah. I watched the show every week when it came out.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to hear how you felt by the end of it, because I know you were a little lukewarm at the beginning. I mean, overall, I thought it was fun. Definitely not required viewing for whatever universe we're launching it to. But I thought it was like a fun way to kind of glean what Gunn wants to do with the universe overall. It kind of feels like I was mentioning with the Justice League animated show. It feels like he's going with this idea of like, yeah, let's just jump into a world that just is already kind of fantastical, right? You know, the idea of somebody announcing themselves at a press conference as a superhero is not that big of a deal.
It's been done. It's been done before. Yeah.
So I kind of like that. Like, you know, Frankenstein, he's a thing. It exists. We don't have to come up with a reason, you know, why somebody is reanimating flesh. And then, you know, and since you have that step already done, we can just jump right into a character like the Bride, which I thought was kind of an interesting idea. It seemed like most of the season was kind of organized around her. You know, every character seemed to get their own episode, but she kind of seemed to be the most standout character. So by the end, I was kind of like, I think it would be kind of cool to see her translate to live action at some point in time.
So I think overall, I've got no problems with a lot of it. It's very mid for me. It suffers from what I've always said are James Gunnisms, right? I don't want to hear Gorgo Bordello one more fucking time in your episodes. Like, literally, we get it. But I think the hardest part I have with this is from a production point of view, Mike, is he's playing music with lyrics while people are talking on the show. And, like, that, to me, is a big no-no. Like, I'd like, pick one, put the music, and let them talk, or let them sing, and then put nothing on them, like they're not talking. But, like, there was too much of, like, it feels like he's just hitting play on his own personal record while watching the show, trying to make his own record. And I really found it distracting and just amateurish at the end of the day for the series. And I didn't really care too much for every episode was like, oh, here's a flashback to this character this week, like a flashback of the week kind of thing. I think the voice actors did fun. There were some fun scenes. Again, I think we talked last time it was Dr. Phosphorus's background episode. Everyone's a tragic character. When some people can just be evil. I think the girl who died, was it Nina or Mina, the fish girl? Like, she didn't really get her own background until the last episode, where they in fact do kill her. Spoiler alert for the show that like is inconsequential at the end of the day. But I'm like, well, I wish we would have built her up more beforehand rather than like see that and then she's kind of no more. But there are times where there are people and they're making the hard decisions, doing the bad things, like what's her name, the bride. Yes, very much down to earth, badass, like taking names and doing what she has to get done. Frankenstein, he's just a purely evil character, like especially like when he was like nursed back to health by that one girl or one lady, and then he just like he kills her. So like he's tragically flawed. And David Harbour does a great job voicing him. Like I feel like his delivery is really good for a Frankenstein, right? Of just like a thing. So I think there are standout parts of it, but like at the same time I'm like, this feels like nobody was over there telling him no, or like, hey, we should not you don't have to tell someone no, but you got to bounce something around to get the best product. And I don't feel like this was the best product that it could have been for a Creature Commando show. So maybe, knock on wood, season 2 does better, but I'm glad they were like 20-minute episodes. I didn't have to sit around for an hour to watch it.
You do bring up a good point. Like, yeah, I guess if you're doing this this narrative structure of everyone gets their own episode, it does get a little tiresome when they're all so tragic. Like everyone has like this just brutal origin story, which I guess, that's how you explain a character being kind of like bad, but also good. But man, yeah, they're all very, very dark. Like I was not really looking forward to the Fish Girls episode, because like it was like a baby being born with like the lungs outside of her, and I was like, oh no, this is gonna be so tragic. How does she turn into a fish? Everyone hates her. But yeah, overall kind of interesting to see where it goes. I mean, it kind of primes you a little bit for a Waller TV show.
Yeah, well, yeah, one of the few carryovers from the Zack Snyder's universe is Viola Davis's Amanda Waller, who is in this way more than I thought she'd be. Right, we had her at the intro. She had like another episode. So her little Argus division is in this. They really kneecapped the guy's name. I can't think of his name. Rick Flag Sr. Like 2 episodes till the end, right? Like he was beaten almost to death by Clayface, and then you didn't really see him the last 2 episodes. He was just kind of in a hospital. So
kind of ballsy though,
Yeah.
You would think that if you were kind of telling this story, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to bring my characters together at the beginning, kind of break them up, and then have them come back together at the end. And it's just like no, I'm actually going to like not give you everyone back together. I'm going to kill one of them. One's going to be like a destroyed robot that you're not going to see halfway through the show, and then we're going to incapacitate Flag. So it was kind of interesting to not see the full group come back together.
It did add I will say it did add stakes, right? Like no one is safe in this universe, probably other than the few named main characters, but they can kill people they introduce, and they will kill people they introduce kind of along the way. So it does set the stakes. Like, yes, you can meet these people and they can and will die and get killed along the way, and they're not afraid to do that. And I applaud them for that. Nothing wrong with that. I just think it felt like someone's first time making an animated project rather than someone who was a seasoned filmmaker making a project along the way. So,
well, they didn't go to the moon, so that's the biggest flaw.
No, you know what?
Could have gone to the moon for the same price as going to Frankenstein's castle.
Exactly. Or what was it? It's not Sokovia. I keep wanting to say Sokovia, but I don't know what city, what fake country they were in with the princess along the way. But by God, they will draw naked zombies, naked lady Frankensteins, the bride. So
yeah, felt a little fan servicey, which is a kind of a term they use in the anime world a lot, of just like, oh, do we want to draw a character looking up their skirt and seeing their underwear? Like, the boys will love it, so let's draw it.
That's right.
So but I kept trying to think in my head, like, okay, if this was live action, does it feel less creepy if it's live action? But since it's a cartoon and animated, is that why it feels a little weird to me?
It's just a weird choice.
I feel like the weirdest part about it was a storytelling device. We didn't realize that the princess was kind of supposed to be this layered character until later in the show. So they show her off as kind of like this naive person that we're not supposed to take seriously. But Gunn decided to show that by making her like this sexual teenager type of character.
Well, that, and then they literally drew the bride nude, like in the flashback episode for her, like whenever she's like having sex with Victor Frankenstein. Yeah, I was like, okay, this is an interesting choice of all the things you could have done. But that's fine. It costs the same as if they drew the moon, Mike, and that's important.
Well, did they not draw the moon? If they turn around.
Yeah, they the full moon, Moving on to more creatures and Gods and Monsters, I guess is the name James Gunn has given his phase 1. Swamp Thing. James Mangold has said that his movie is more of a standalone project for the DCU. That's probably how he's thinking about it for Swamp Thing. It will be a gothic horror film around the character. And I was like, boy, this sounds really similar to Clayface, what they're doing with him, which is supposedly start filming in the next month or two. So feels like a lot of parallels between these two characters and how they're selling the movies, I guess, at the end of the day. But James Mangold, he's done good things. He's done some okay things. I would just like to see him do something, because he's got a Star Wars movie and a DC movie in the works right now. So,
well, based on the metric from Gunn and Safran, is the script done? Because nothing technically gets greenlit until the script's done. So I wonder what that means from this point of view.
Yeah, I forget who was writing it. I don't know. Maybe he was writing it as well. So we'll see if they're working on that, or they'll take the Matt Reeves approach and just take a decade to make the sequel or a movie. So either one's fine. Whatever they want to do. We don't get to say it. You brought this up earlier, but the Amanda Waller show it will begin rolling cameras this year. For the Max series, and this was announced alongside Peacemaker season 2 by James Gunn at the start of the DC. For those who don't remember, that Amanda Waller was getting her own show on top of everything else going into this, and this is where I think we would see live action Creature Commandos make some side appearances. Right, we already seen Weasel in the Suicide Squad. I could see her taking a visit to the non-human internment division, whatever it's called. In some of those characters making live action appearances for the first time in this show.
I mean, even if it's in like a cameo idea, because I guess the lockup, the jail, is kind of Amanda Waller's office in a way. It could be offsite, but she probably has an office there. It'd be kind of cool to see her kind of like walk by one of the cells, and we can see all of the characters that we were introduced to just in live action for a moment. It could be.
Yeah, well, even if it's not, like, I know they had at the end of Creature Commandos, they had King Shark make an appearance there, who was also live action.
Oh yeah, that's right. King Shark was in there.
So like, yeah, I can see her like either talking to the bride or something like that. We don't know what Waller's about. All we know from Creature Commandos is that they shut down the Suicide Squad program. They cannot use people anymore. So I don't know what her series is going to be about. We know if they do anything with Peacemaker season 1. There's the little was it the butterflies they call them that were taking over people's heads to deal with. Her daughter is the main character in Peacemaker, other than Peacemaker. So like, there's a lot of ways they could go with this. So I have a lot of intrigue about it. But boy, was she in the first Superman movie? Like from Zack Snyder?
Oh, wow. I don't.
I'm gonna look this up real fast.
I feel like the first place we saw her was in the wasn't an after credit scene where she's getting dinner with Bruce Wayne, or was her first time we saw her was in that Suicide Squad movie? I can't remember if the post credit scene with Batman was it in that movie? I don't even. Who can keep track of all this stuff?
Well, right, exactly. I'm kind of taking a look here to see she's been around the whole time, which is crazy.
Yeah. My big guess is she's kind of like this very powerful character, but also just kind of like a hanging Chad from like a previous regime. And I feel like maybe she would rather do other things as well. Actually, who knows? Maybe she really likes the big superhero paycheck. I don't want to take that away from Viola Davis, but it seems to me you have an interesting storytelling moment if you kill her off, right? Either her daughter has to step up and fill her shoes, or there's like this big power vacuum in like the government and bring in another character who has to try to do her job and things shake up. So I would think either she dies in her own TV show at the end, or we see her one more time in Peacemaker, and maybe she eats the dust in season 2 of Peacemaker.
Well, Peacemaker season 2 is before Waller, so.
Oh, well, this makes even more sense for her to die in her own show.
So she was Suicide Squad, you're right, and the Suicide Squad, and Black Adam, and Peacemaker, and Creature Commandos, and will be in Waller. So, to me, and I hate to say this, Mike, but they've set her up as like a second-rate Nick Fury for the DC universe, right? Like, she's got her secrets have secrets. You know, she's got mystery buildings and organizations and teams that she can call in at any time because she's, you know, in the ghost version at the top of the chain here. So I'm interested to see if they do have any use for her. Do you think she'll appear in Superman this year? Like, you know, if she appears in Superman, I don't think they'll kill her off. I think they'll keep her in the back. But like, it's interesting that they've kept the same actress. Nothing against her. I think Viola Davis does a great job. It's not her fault. But like, of all the hanging chads, the remnants of the Zack Snyder DC extended universe, she is the oldest in there and still playing the same role, like in all these different crossover movies, right? Like the Suicide Squad and Suicide Squad. So
maybe she could be a little bit of a catalyst for this gun universe, right? She's this established figurehead that has been around for a while, seemingly keeping the world from falling apart, like a Nick Fury would, as we've seen in the MCU, pulling the string. And then maybe she meets her end, and then things really start to unravel, which is why we pick up this universe where we're starting, why Superman has to kind of maybe step up and things have to start changing.
Maybe I could also see her maybe being imprisoned or going on the run underground from like maybe Lex Luthor if he's trying to take over as well. Because maybe she is right. I mean, obviously in Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, it felt like she was willing to admit she was wrong and do the right thing. So I don't think she's evil. I don't think she's vying for control, but like she's just getting down there. It's a very interesting character who has a lot of screen time, more than you think she would at the end of the day. So we'll know within like I guess 2 years, Mike, by 27, what they're gonna do with her. So we'll keep you guys posted. Last bit of news here: Sgt Rock movie will start filming later this year. For those who may not know, we talked about Sgt Rock. Will be starring Daniel Craig. It'll be a DCU film set in like World War II, and he, I think, was one of the squad mates of G.I. Robot in Creature Commandos. What was his whatever his little company was in that episode?
Oh, I'm sure it's a blink and you miss it type.
Well, I think in the comic books he's part of that same named squad, so that's what it is. Like I don't think Daniel Craig is in there. This is still not officially announced from the DCU, but this is something James Gunn has actively not debunked, if that makes any sense.
I feel like maybe the best way to make this work and make people interested in it, because it does seem like a very kind of like bizarre thing to greenlight out of this universe, right? It almost feels like a character that was invented out of like the military, like industrial complex era of comic books, of just like, hey, army comic books are selling really, really well, let's create our own character. And it ends up being Sgt Rock, you know.
Well, it was I looked this up last time. It was 1959 in a comic book called Our Army at War, which I think might have been like just, you know, obviously coming into what pre-leading in the Vietnam War, but still also in the like looking back on World War II era. So like they are very much a military complex who essentially ended up getting his own series because it is, like, he was so popular. So I'd say like a DC G.I. Joe, right, if you will.
Yeah, I would think if this character, you know, survives past one movie. I don't know if this character is supposed to travel through time and catch up with the rest of our heroes, or if they just rootly stay in the past. But it could be an interesting way to kind of do a prequel for maybe a different character, or to explain maybe something that has existed for a long time in this universe that pops up in another movie, like maybe a MacGuffin or something, right? Like, what's that stupid algorithm or code that Doomsday was looking for?
The anti-life equation.
Yeah, like maybe Sergeant Rock like stumbles across like that, much like the Tesseract was stumbled across by like Red Skull or something. I don't. Or probably shouldn't do that if it's like I can only draw direct comparisons to like their number one franchise competitor right now. But I don't know. Maybe that could be kind of a fun device.
Yeah, I think at the same time he could also, maybe it's just a one-off story. They don't need a franchise either. Like, I don't know if Daniel Craig is doing, what's the murder mystery ones he's into right now? Glass Onion and the other one.
Yeah, the Knives Out universe.
Knives Out universe, yeah. And he just got done with James Bond, so he's probably not looking to do that. So I could see them just doing like a World War II style movie. But like, boy, do I not like watching World War II style movies.
Yeah, maybe it's just vanity. Maybe just Gunn or Safran have a soft spot for World War II movies, and this is their chance to make one.
Yeah, and obviously, I guess maybe the only character they could pull in, or not only a character they could pull in, would be G.I. Robot. Have a live action G.I. Robot with them.
Yeah. Or like maybe an Amazonian or something. Like Themyscira did kind of pop up in a World War last time we saw it on screen.
Yeah, I don't know if they want to draw that comparison, but there's opportunities to tell some unique World War II stories, I guess. I mean, Captain America, the first one, first Avenger, did that pretty well. So there's opportunities. But boy, this is a character I did not have on my bingo card. I did see his comic books yesterday when I was out at those toy and vintage stores. So it's good to know his comic books are still out there gaining some traction. The old ones, at least. So. But anyway, Mike, that's our show for this week. Thanks for letting me run away from the mic earlier, even though I had my headphones on the whole time. I heard everything you said. So don't ever say that about me again. No, I'm kidding. But if people want to know what you're up to, what you're doing, where can they find you at?
Well, they can find my webcomics at pickledcomics.com and liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, people want to catch you. Where can they find you?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, VALDAN, or Video Game Systems of the same name. People want to know more about the show, where they can get merch, listen to every week, see that list of upcoming movies that you talked about. Where can they get all them goodies at?
Yeah, all you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. That's the best place to find all the avenues we host the show. Get our awesome show notes. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to podcasts. Like Chris was mentioning, we got merch, superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Are you getting your tickets for Brave New World? Are you excited? Are you more excited for Daredevil possibly? Or maybe you starting to lean into the DC universe. Maybe Marvel is getting a little stale for you and you want to see something new and fresh. Let us know. I want to know what the temperature of the fans are out there in the world.
It's 14 degrees here. So that's the temperature.
Well, is that Celsius or Fahrenheit? It's different. We got to do the conversion.
Oh, well. Yeah. Centimeters.
And we love our super fans. So if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you have to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy, and we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right. We'll see you guys next week.